Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Jamila, for having us, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. You basically said anything. I don't even know if I have to introduce myself, but I will repeat that yes, I am a sports entertainment and business attorney. I'm originally from Chicago. I now live in Atlanta, Georgia, where I've been practicing law for about 7+ years. And I have a passion for discussing all things sports, especially with our youth and especially concerning NIL, because it's such a new topic and there are so many changes and things that you have to keep abreast of in order for you to stay in compliance as an athlete. And I am joined by my wonderful team, as you stated, Tonita, Bybee-Jackson, and Porsche S. Love. They will each be discussing their expertise after I finish my spiel, which my spiel is maybe not exciting as theirs, because Porsche is about the money and Tonita is about the brand endorsements. Mine is about compliance and making sure you are following the rules so you can still play. So with that being said, I will get started. So our topic is the NIL Navigator, building your brand. So we're going to be discussing the legal, financial, and branding around or surrounding NIL. Trying to go to the next slide here. Why is my arrow not moving? There we go. So I've already introduced all of us, but those are lovely pictures. So overview again. So I'm going to start with the intro to name, image, and likeness, the origins of NIL. Talk about a little bit about policy and compliance, and then I'll hand it over to my team where they'll talk about branding and maximizing your NIL and the financial implications for NIL. So first topic, what is NIL? NIL is name, image, and likeness. It stems from the tort law, right of privacy, and in some states it falls under right of publicity. So everyone, no matter who you are, has a right to their privacy and or publicity. It prevents other people from using your name and basically essentially making money from your name. So anything that is recognizable concerning your name, meaning you could have a specific name that you've already attached to clothing. You can have a name that you've already attached to some type of business, but you have that right to prevent other people from making money off of it. So unfair competition is when a person's name or likeness is misappropriated. So that's basically when someone is using your name without having any type of contract, agreement, or authorization to use your name to make money for. So for example, if myself, someone took creative EsquiHER, which is the name of my firm, and they attached it to a cereal. But I never ever have endorsed cereal. I've never spoke with anyone about cereal. I've never asked anyone to do any type of cereal deal. But someone decided to use that name and attach it. So now, to the regular consumer, it seems like Creative Esquire is now promoting cereal when I'm not. So that is what happens. That is what we call unfair competition. Everyone has a legal right to their NIL and how it's used. And again, if someone was to use it without your permission, you have the right to take legal action. As we know, in the past, college athletes were not allowed to make money from their NIL. If they did, or there was any type of inclination that they were using their NIL as a source of income, you know, that they would be, either kicked off the team, and they would also not be allowed to maneuver themselves to be maneuver themselves from high school to college or even in college as a youth athlete or as a student athlete in college, because they considered that to be quote unquote illegal. But now with the changing laws, obviously there's a lot of athletes making money from their NIL now. So the NCAA policy that took effect, so it took effect before 2024, but I'm going to give you the most up-to-date knowledge, which took effect August 1st, 2024, because as I said, NIL is fairly new. So there are continuously new lawsuits, there are continuous policies. There is so much that is continuously changing that you have to keep abreast of it. So you either need to research it yourself or you need to speak with a professional that can tell you specifically what you need to do to stay in compliance as a student athlete, because each state is different, each school is different. And as I said, the NCAA has their own policy. So that's what makes it tricky, because although you might think you're in compliance because you're reading the NCAA policy, when you get to your specific state or your specific school, they might have rules. And I am going to talk about the state policy, specifically Georgia's, because that's where I'm located. But right now I'm going to talk about the NCAA policy. So voluntary registration. Voluntary registration is the process for NIL service providers, meaning agents, financial advisors, brand advisors, to serve as a centralized source for providers interested in working with student athletes. Voluntary means that you basically can start working with athletes on your own as long as you are registered. And again, even for us professionals, that's different in each state and with each school. Some schools have it where you can actually go onto their school website and sign up as a provider. So I've signed up on a few school websites where it shows that I am someone that the students can come to discuss NIL. Next, disclosure requirements. So student athletes will be required to disclose to their schools information related to NIL agreements that are $600 in value, no later than 30 days after entering into the contract or signing the NIL agreement. This mostly comes because a lot of students don't know that in order to stay in compliance, you also have to follow certain tax rules. And because you're students, you're not really abreast of that, because most of the time, obviously, when you sign up for college, you are under your parents and you're still under your parents. However, you have now your own source of income. And Porsche will discuss that a little bit more. But because you have your own source of income, you now have to report that. And it exceeds a certain amount that you have to report. And some students don't know that even the $600 in value doesn't have to necessarily be physical money. It can be $600 in value in Fashion Nova clothes, $600 in value of endorsing some type of food product, some type of sports equipment, things like that. So that's where it becomes tricky. And like I said, where you have to actually research or talk to someone that it can actually give you the correct information, because a lot of this really teeters on you knowing the ins and outs and what you have to do to stay in compliance and make sure that you're able to still play and also keep your regular student funding as well through financial aid. Standardized contracts. NCAA will work with schools to provide student athletes with robust education and contractual obligations, including developing a template contract and recommended contract terms to ensure student athletes and their families make informed. So that has been a lot of debate and a lot of issues, because a lot of schools, especially HBCUs, don't have that type of knowledge, or they don't have those courses or those things to help the students and the parents understand exactly what they're signing up. So the standardized contract, once they do implement it or make sure it's implemented, I should say, will help, because it will give students and their parents, and it will give also the athletic departments and the staff and whomever else at the schools that are assisting with this, they're able to now come in and say, hey, this is how a contract is supposed to look. Here's the terms that you need to look out for, etc. Or they can have someone like me or myself or me and my team come in and actually explain these different avenues or the different contracts and terms that students need to look out for when signing with a brand. Comprehensive NIL education. The NCAA will develop a comprehensive plan to provide ongoing education and resources to support student athletes and those assisting student athletes on policies, rules, and best practices pertaining to NIL. Education will be provided to other key stakeholders as well. So that's what I was just talking about. So the NCAA is saying that they will have some type of programming come in and be able to assist the students and the educational department, the staff, the faculty, etc., on NIL and what the students need to be aware of and look out for. However, as I stated before, all schools or all programs don't have the funding to bring in these people to teach them, which is good, which is why we have summits like this, where you can have different people in that's abreast of NIL come in and talk to you about it. Because even though the NCAA is saying this is under their policy, it's up to the actual, like I said, each school in each state to have people actually come in and actually provide that funding for the schools. Now I'll talk a little bit about Georgia law, which took effect July 1st, 2021. So the Georgia law states that schools may require athletes to share up to 75% of their NIL compensation. So this is basically considered pooling. However, schools do not have to actually take part in this. They can opt out. And the pool is basically because, as I stated, NIL is new. And prior to NIL, athletes were not able to make money from their NIL. So they came up with the pooling idea because a lot of athletes have told me that, well, prior athletes have told me that they've actually gotten checks from their school, basically like back pay to ensure they get some type of fee or funding because they were not obviously around when NIL took place. So that is where the idea of pooling comes in. And obviously, like I said, it said that the school does not have to participate in this revenue sharing. But Division One schools likely will. And that's because again goes back to funding and being able to have those resources and that alumni support, et cetera, to actually participate in this type of pooling agreement. So athletes cannot enter into NIL contracts that conflict with their team contracts. And athletes must disclose NIL contracts to a designated official at their school. Again, this is where the programming comes in. So some schools in Georgia, meaning the colleges, actually have databases where the students can sign up for it and the providers, and the students can converse with the providers and vice versa. And they have like a little template where the students are to read it and the provider reads it, and it's all in this database so that it stays within the realm of the school and the students have to report it to the school. Because again, there are a lot of things that students need to be aware of. You cannot enter into a contract where you are promoting a certain brand and your actual school already has a license or a contract with another brand. Things like that. Or you might have signed your athletic agreement with your school and it might have something to do with you not being able to promote alcohol or you not being able to promote a certain product that the school, so the school might have a deal with a certain athletic gear, and then you want to get a deal with a certain athletic gear provider as well. So it's a lot of things that you have to look out for and make sure that you're not conflicting with your school. And also, students don't know, and a lot of staff, school, and brands don't know either. The schools have their own intellectual property. So students might can promote themselves, but that doesn't mean they can promote themselves while wearing their school paraphernalia. Team contracts cannot prevent athletes from engaging in NIL activities outside official athletic program activities. So this is basically saying that whatever you decide to do for your brand is fine, but it cannot conflict with what you have already agreed to do as a student athlete. And you teams cannot. So a lot of this has been a bit very controversial when it comes to the transfer portal, when it comes to students becoming eligible to play for colleges, or when they're deciding to pick a team, because a lot of schools who have the funding or have the money are using NIL to get students obviously at their school. But you cannot have a contract where you are preventing students from engaging in their own NIL activities, and you really aren't technically supposed to, I guess, persuade students through NIL. So a lot of students are picking schools based off of the endorsements they have. So some schools have endorsements with Jeep. Some schools have endorsements with certain complexes, meaning apartment complexes or housing complexes. Some schools have certain endorsements with certain athletic brands. So that is a lot when it is a lot of nuances when it comes to NIL. And that's particularly one of them because, again, you want athletes to still have that core value of being an athlete and coming to the school based on the athletic program and not necessarily because of how much money they'll think they'll make from NIL. So I've already touched on a lot of this when it comes to compliance, but I think I mentioned things like, you can't sign up for liquor endorsements and things like that, depending on your school, depending on your state, et cetera. But I'll give a little bit more about the prohibited activities. NIL athletes are prohibited from compensation related to pay for play. That's what I was just talking about with the transfer portal and people trying to induce students to come to their school based off of NIL. So no quid pro, and that's basically compensation for work not performed. So that's basically me saying, hey, you come play on my team. It's actually a lawsuit now going on with students, and I forgot the name of the school, but it's a Florida school where the coach basically told the students that they would get so much money from NIL if they came to the school, and now they're actually suing that particular coach. So no compensation contingent on initial or continued enrollment at the school. Recruits cannot get paid to attend an institution. So that goes back to me saying about the students that are suing the coach now. That's coach, and they have text messages and they have different documentation where the coach is saying, yeah, I'm going to get this much funding, X, Y, and Z from my partners. And the students said that they were not going to stop playing, or they were like on strike, or saying that they weren't going to play in certain games. And he enforced it like, no, please play in the game. We're going to get you the money that I promised you, etc. So these are the type of things that the NCAA and certain states have continued to try to enforce. So no compensation that is contingent or based on the athlete's performance. Again, you can't say, hey, if you make so many touchdowns, I'm going to give you X, Y, Z in brand endorsements, or I'm giving you so much money if you play in so many games, or if you make so many baskets, or if you hit so many home runs if you're a baseball player. An athlete's NIL value might be enhanced by performance, but an athlete cannot have any financial incentive based on points, scores, etc. Because that's almost teetering on the gap. So you can't say like, hey, you make 30 points this game, I'm gonna make sure you get $100,000 payment from a certain brand. College athletes cannot receive benefits that are inconsistent with institutional policies. So again, that goes back to me saying you can't promote certain brands depending on your school's rules. Athletes cannot wear an athletic brand in the field that does not represent the financial deal the institution has. So I already talked about that. The institutions already have their own IP, and as well as they already have their own athletic apparel companies that they might have licensed or brand agreements with themselves. And lastly, depending on the school they attend, college athletes cannot endorse alcohol, tobacco, or gambling products. They are also prohibited from using school logos and paid opportunities or signing deals that conflict with the school sponsorship agreements. So that's the rule that I've already discussed in detail. So lastly, the importance of attorney representation. So we can assist you with negotiating your NIL agreements. So a lot of companies have reached out to students TikTok or Facebook, or more than likely IG, and they're saying like, hey, we have a great deal for you. If you will endorse our skincare products, we'll give you $500 if you make one reel. And that, as a student, man, that sounds like a lot of money, because that's $500 you don't have. So you're like, hey, I would love to do that. However, you don't know that you can get more than it, especially depending on your presence and your social media presence and what type of athlete you are, and if that actual brand matches something that you've already been doing. So a lot of students, they have booming TikToks or Instagrams where they talk about a day in their life or get ready with me. So they might be using a specific skincare product already, and they might be getting over so many shares, so many likes. So that $500 is a drop in the bucket with what you really could be getting if you have negotiate, or you had an attorney or someone that can represent you and negotiate that deal. Drafting and revising licensing. A licensing agreement is what gives the license permission to reproduce and use a licensor's intellectual property. In this case, like I said, it's NIL. It's your name, image, and likeness. So you don't want to sign an agreement where you're giving someone unlimited access to your NIL, meaning even after you've done performing your side of the agreement, they still get to use your NIL. And a lot of people don't know that. And those are hidden terms, again, in contracts that you might not notice or you might not be aware of because you don't have that knowledge. As a legal contract, this type of formal agreement should set forth in detail the terms and the proper usage. So it should tell you, hey, if you let us use your name for this skincare product and you produce so many reels and so many posts, we get to use it for this amount of time. We get to keep the post up on our page for this long. We get to use it internally, etc. But you don't want them to be able to still get a monetary value, as you know, that you can get off TikTok and Instagram, because they can keep that up. And obviously you make money from social media and they'll be continuously making money and you've already gotten paid. And say you got paid a lump sum, but then that product takes off and you're able to, you could have continued to either gotten paid or limited them from using you to promote that product so they can continue to get paid off their name. And lastly, help NIL athletes remain compliant with school and or state policy. So that's basically been the focal point of my presentation, that I want you guys to be able to stay abreast and be able to still perform as a student athlete while engaging in these NIL deals and making sure you're not doing anything that's prohibited by your school, your state, or the NCAA. So now I'll turn it over to Tonita, where she'll discuss branding and maximizing your NIL, which is the fun part of the conversation because she gets to tell you about how you can use your brand to get certain endorsements and how you utilize social media and how much money there is to be made from your NIL.
Hi, and thank you so much, Sunnita. And thank you guys for allowing us, Jamila, this platform to be able to speak to your youth and be part of this athletic summit for the youth. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you guys so much. I won't be doing like a slide because I got my slides over to Sunnita a little late. I had a death in my family 2 days ago. My stepdad passed. So we've been trying to navigate through that while making sure that I showed up for this. So if you guys can just kind of pay attention. I'm going to speak as if it were slides. I'll do a brief introduction of what I'm going to be speaking about, and then I will go more off into it. So of course, branding and marketing for NIL deals and maximizing your NIL deals, and it's unlocking opportunities for athletes. Like this is probably the most important, component of the NIL deal because this is the whole point, right? We want to make money and monetize. I'm going to start off with the value of personal branding. Personal branding for athletes, it's imperative to a successful NIL brand deal. Having a strong personal brand can enhance NIL opportunities as they are able to see you as more than an athlete. They can see how you function in other capacities, which in turn add additional value to your NIL deals that they have to offer you. And a lot of people really don't understand personal branding. I'll get off into that in a little bit, but you definitely want to create and start a brand for yourself. And that is your first entrance into NIL deals. The second thing you want to do is have a target audience. So once you create your personal brand, now we want to market. And marketing to everyone is essentially marketing to no one. A lot of people think just kind of throwing it on a wall and whatever sticks is going to work for you. That's just not how marketing works, especially if you're trying to do a name, image, and likeness deal, because if you're not like one of the top 2 or 3% athletes coming out of your college or high school, most times the media and the public don't know who you are, right? So that's the importance of first creating a personal brand. And that's the importance of marketing your personal brand. Understanding the demographics of your fans and consumers who will use your brand products is essential to a successful NIL relationship. This is why it is essential to partner with the brand that aligns with your interests, and that you market to demographics of consumers you can relate to, and research the market prior to signing a deal. And that is so important. A lot of people just see the money and don't really understand the brands that they're trying to connect with. And your personal beliefs or your personal brand ethos just may not align with what they're talking about. So then you won't come across as authentic and relatable. And more than likely, that's not a deal that will be successful for you. The next thing you want to do after you've built your personal brand, we've narrowed down your target market and your demographic audience. You want to build a brand strategy. And branding is not easy by far, but I have a very simple formula that you guys can utilize. And then it will help secure brand sponsorships, partnerships, and NIL deals. the first thing you want to do is brand identity. And this goes back to personal branding. So you want to have logos, colors, a messaging, a tagline. You want to have a professional create these items based on who you are and who you want to attract. And they have all kinds of apps for this. You can, it's all kinds of different networks and sites that you can get logos made. Make sure it's something that speaks to who you are as a person, though. You want to create a unique selling proposition. We call that a USP. And that just defines you and your product and why a consumer needs you and your brand over everybody else, because this is a super competitive market. So you want to make sure that they need you and you want to give them a reason why they need you. You want to create a brand voice and personality. No one wants to buy from or partner with like some boring humdrum brand. You want to be relatable and personable. You want to add your own unique flavor to your marketing products and stick to your own brand ethos. So you can't just be, humdrum, willy-nilly, talking with a straight face. We want to see energetic and lively, and it just really depends on what you're selling. Since you guys are in the athletic arena, we want to see you moving, and we want to see you excited about practicing, and we want to see you weary after a hard practice, right? We want you to inject your personality into your brand. And most importantly, we want you to be authentic. You are one of one. So create your brand based on who you are and not what is popular or trending. And that is so, so important. The most successful brands are owned by people who show up as themselves, and consumers can smell a fraud. Whatever and whoever you are, just be that. You do not need to be FloJo. You do not need to be LeBron James. If that is not your thing, that's not who you are. You don't need to market yourself as that. You are one of one. We want you to show up as your most authentic self, because that is what brands want to see. You will be unique to that brand. You will be more authentic, and consumers love authenticity. And we just want you to stick to that. So one way, and the biggest way to get your NIL deals, and to make sure after you've done all these components, right, you now understand the value of personal branding. You know that you need to narrow down a target market and a demographic that you want to service. You want to start looking into brands that you want to align with that fits your own personal brand ethos. You want to show up authentic as your most authentic self. You want to be you. You want to be relatable. You want to be engaging. The next thing we want to do is start the marketing process, because you've already got that branding component in place, right? So now it's time to pitch you. And social media has taken over the world. So the first thing we're going to do is identify successful marketing channels for NIL deals. So social media has taken over the world. If you do not have a social media platform to market from, you will not get the brand recognition you desire. It is imperative that you create a personality on Instagram, Meta, TikTok, even though they're probably taking TikTok, but it's fan base. It's a lot of other, Snapchat, Pinterest, YouTube. It's vital for the growth of your brand. And most NIL brand deals are simply born from your popularity on these platforms. So the big deals aren't necessarily just going to the best players. Best marketer wins also. So you guys have to think about that. You just may be an overall team player. You may not be number one. You may not be number two. You may not even be drafted or going to a D1 school, but the best marketer wins. So if you create a big social media presence, a big presence on these platforms, and these NIL deals and these NIL companies and these brands are looking for somebody, you will likely be the person that they choose. We also encourage you to start a personal vlog or a blog where and people can see what your brand is about, right? They can see who you are. And when you do that, you want to bring in collaborators, you want to bring in some social media influencers, and they will go a long way in pushing you forward and help you securing NIL deals. A lot of us shy away from social media, or we only show like our personal lives on social media. We keep our pages private. If you want to become a public figure, you just have to be that. You have to become a public figure. And that means that people are going to step in and they're going to judge and they're going to have things to say that you may or may not like. But you have to develop a tough skin, because this is what you signed up for when you're signing up for name, image, and likeness brand deals. And I just want you guys to be aware of that, because a lot of us go into it thinking it's just going to be all, peachy keen and everything's going to be positive. You may not get the feedback that you want initially, but just keep going. and keep growing and keep showing up on these platforms. The number one thing for securing and maximizing your NIL, right? To even securing an NIL deal is creating content. Content is king. Content on all of your social media platforms. You can use anything for content. So I tell everybody, do not wait, create. As you grow your personal brand to secure NIL deals, you must create content to post on your social media platforms so you can get the exposure necessary to secure lucrative brand deals. People are naturally inquisitive and will love a front row seat to your business, so give them that by posting behind the scenes videos, personal stories and experiences, as well as sponsor content and partnerships. Don't just post perfection, post the bloopers and the blunders as well. A good laugh will go a long way in spreading the word about you and your brand. This will help grow your audience and make you more visible and more likely to get an NIL deal. Be sure to use high quality videos and photos when posting and edit out what's not needed. Posting consistently will also allow you an opportunity to monetize your platform. So now you have two ways of making income, right? While you're waiting for an NIL deal or waiting to grow, you can still monetize off of all of your social media platforms. And it'll also help you get brand recognition. And even though you're not selling anything yet, you're selling yourself. So you are your brand. And so I don't want you to be confused like, well, I'm not selling creams or salves or a product. No, you're selling yourself. You are your product. So create, videotape everything, whether it's going to the grocery store, preparing your meals, if your meals are prepared for you, meal planning, meal prepping, getting ready to put on your equipment, what your stretch or workout routine looks like, what your wind down looks like, what you do in your off time. Content is king. Post continuously. Even if you don't think anybody is looking or anybody is watching, I can tell you more often than not, 80% of the deals that I get and 80% of the brand connections that I connect with come from people's social media platform. They reach out to me as a small business owner and say, hey, I see that you represent or you do this for this. We're looking to have this particular personality or we're looking for this person. So you never know who's watching. Continue to create, post regularly and consistently. You don't have to show up perfect. You do have to show up. So in wrapping everything up, you guys have to create a personal brand. We have to identify our target market and our demographic. In creating a personal brand, we have to build a brand strategy. We have to show up as our most authentic selves. We have to create a presence on social media. It's not going to grow overnight. You want it to grow organically. You want to create content. You want to post content. In conclusion, securing an NIL deal is not as difficult as you think if you, again, first take your time to build your own personal brand. Embrace personal branding and use it as a gateway to sell yourself to larger brands. Take advantage of your social media platforms to engage and grow. They are looking for that to give you a deal. They can be a springboard for you to be seen by larger brands and secure lucrative NIL deals. Utilize business professionals when reaching out and seeking NIL deals. Businesses who specialize in this niche likely have made prior connections and contacts to the brands that you are seeking representation from. So it's nothing wrong with reaching out to businesses, companies like myself, like Sunnita, like Porsche, where this is what we do. This is our focus. So you may want to, connect with PowerAid. We may have already a connection in PowerAid, and we may know that they're looking for a new face, right? So don't be afraid to reach out. After that, do not be afraid to think outside the box for marketing and branding. Standing out and showing up as your most authentic self will garner you far greater results than copying someone else's brand style. Let successful NIL partnerships inspire you. Take away key factors from the way they represent themselves and restructure those components to fit your brand ethos. Don't just emulate somebody else. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. You don't have to mimic anybody's page. You don't have to mimic anybody's way of talking, of speaking, of showing up. But you can watch, right? Successful people, successful brands, and you can take away the things that you like about them and turn those things into your own. You don't have to create a wheel. Just use what's there, reinvent it to fit what you want to seek. Most importantly, do not be afraid of no. This is difficult. Securing an NIL deal is quite difficult. This is a competitive arena. you are going to encounter about 10,000 no's. Do not be discouraged by that, because all you need is the right yes. One right yes will be life-changing for you. So don't get out here and say, hey, I can't secure a deal, or I'm not popular enough, or again, best marketer wins all the time. I don't have enough, or whatever you think that you lack. Show up, just show up, create the content, get in the forefront, talk to businesses, go to summits, participate in on different platforms, create small blogs and podcasts. You will be seen. Once you are seen, I can guarantee you, if you are doing this consistently, you again don't have to be the LeBron James. Tristan Thompson is rich too. He's got a $30 million contract as well. So you may not be the billionaire. You can eventually get there, but you can definitely put yourself in position to win. You just have to show up, authentic, do the work. Do not be afraid of no, because that one right yes will come. If you guys have any questions, or if you want to know anything, you guys can definitely participate in the chat. I'm here, for the rest of the summit to answer any questions you guys may have. If you guys are seeking services, or you just want more information about marketing and branding, we are absolutely here for that, and we'd love to hear from you guys. All of our contact information is on the site, so feel free to reach out. Our consultations are free. Reach out to us. We'd love to speak with you, and thank you guys for your time. And Portia, it's your turn. She's going to talk about the money, because that's the most important part too.
Yeah, so good evening, or good afternoon rather, everybody. So glad to be here. Thank you all. I know we've taken in a lot of information, so I'm going to try not to overwhelm you too much. But as stated, I am a financial planner, financial advisor. So let's talk about, why do we need financial planning? Well, you want to seek a financial planner that takes a holistic approach, because even as an athlete, you're not just an athlete. You're a business owner. I mean, Tonita just said it, right? Your brand, your business, you are the business owner, but you're also a student. You could be a parent, a sibling, a homeowner. You're going to have many titles, and you want someone that's going to help you plan for all aspects of your life, not just managing your money. And we've heard too many times of entertainers entrusting somebody with their money, and then they find out months, years down the line that that person has stole hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars from them. So you don't have to be the expert. I'm not expecting anybody that has an NIL contract or otherwise. If this is not your field, I'm not expecting you to know as much as I do, but you do want to have a basic level of financial literacy. So this is important, especially for, I see a lot of athletes, engineers, those of us that are going in and we're in like this kind of unique space where we really become the first people in our family to reach this new level of income or new level of wealth. And if you have somebody already in your family, you already know that there's a level of stress and responsibility that comes with this new level of income. So we want to avoid some of the common financial pitfalls that we've all either seen and or heard about, which is why it's so important that you want to have a financial roadmap. Your financial roadmap is going to be your guiding light as you move through every phase of life. So the first step in this process is to understand your budget and your spending habits. Once you understand your budget and your spending habits, you can now start to build your emergency savings. Your emergency savings is simply the money necessary to live from day to day. It's money for food, utilities, rent, when you buy a house, your mortgage, and maybe some clothes, because I mean, let's be realistic. We're building a brand here. So you don't want to be in clothes with holes in them and you're not looking presentable when you need to be out in public. So you may need to incorporate in your budget some costs for clothes. But we're not out, the emergency fund is not to go out and eat steak and lobster and lamb chops or buy Gucci, Prada, and Fendi every other day. It's really for the necessities. Now, and I understand, especially being here in Atlanta, is that it can be tough to be in the public eye, but when you have to tap into your emergency fund, that means that you're tight on a budget. And it's usually due to some kind of loss or strain on your income. So we definitely want to understand our budget and our spending habits so that we can build a strong emergency savings. Now, while you're saving and building that emergency fund, you also want to start your investment journey. We're not going to wait and hold off until we get to a certain point, because investing is like bodybuilding, or even just kind of building up to being, you know, a LeBron James or a Kobe. They didn't come into that overnight. So the sooner you start, the sooner you can get to your goal. But the important part is that you start. And when you start, you don't go into the gym and throw 45s on each side of the barbell. You start small and you build up to those 45s. But the only way that you're going to get there is you have to do it consistently. So you're in the gym 3-4 days out the week, you take those couple of days to rest, and then you're back at it. It's the same thing with investing. You want to start now, start with an amount you can invest consistently every month. And then as you get those larger NIL deals, you'll increase how much that you're investing, but you've got to start now. Now, there's two reasons why we take this approach. One is that when you're consistently investing, you're going to have times when the market is low. So you're going to end up buying more of that particular stock, bond, mutual fund, ETF. And then there's going to be times where the market is much higher and you're not going to be buying as much. But the consistency of it is going to allow you to take advantage in both times, without you having to try to time the market, because let's be honest, we can't. We can estimate and kind of guess, but there's no real guarantee behind it. So the point is to start it and do it. The second reason why we want to start with the consistent investing is in certain accounts, especially those that have a guaranteed interest rate, it's going to help contribute to your compounding interest, right? So it's going to allow you to continue to compound on the amount that you're growing and building and that interest that comes with it to ultimately grow your account. Next, you must plan for taxes, right? So Sunnita mentioned that, you know, if you've got $600 or more in your contract, that is reportable income. So keep in mind, you're the business. When a business receives a check, whether that be sponsorship valued at a particular amount or even products, it will be considered taxable income. And in certain states, you're going to pay both state and federal taxes. So depending on whether or not you register your business, or if so, the type of business will determine if the income is categorized as personal or business income, which then leads to what strategies your financial planner can then implement to help you mitigate or decrease the amount of your tax liability. So how are we keeping more money in our pockets and less money paid out to Uncle Sam? All that's done through a strong financial plan and understanding how your business is registered, what strategies we can use. You can go to the next slide. You can go to the next slide. Yep. So I realize I'm giving you all a lot of information, but here's what I really want you to take from this. I want you to understand your budget so you can save and invest, create good money habits early, like living within your means. Also remember, you're a business and you need to build a team that you trust. So having your agent or manager, your financial planner, who's a fiduciary, meaning that they're going to work towards your best interest and not their own. Having a tax advisor, that's somebody your financial planner will work with, so that as we implement those tax strategies for you, you are able to do the very thing that is expected, and that's keep more money in your pocket, pay less in taxes. You want to have an attorney. Now, there's different types of attorneys that you're going to employ as you go through different phases, but you obviously need to have an attorney that is versed in entertainment and sports law. And then you need a marketing and brand manager. So build your team out, but make sure that it's a team of people that you vetted, that you trust, that you know are knowledgeable.
So I hope everyone enjoyed each one of our segments, and I did a little summary of the takeaways from what we all spoke about. My takeaways were keep abreast of the NCAA and your state's policy. Compliance with the NCAA rules are essential. And keep in mind the protected and concerted activities, because as I stated, you can get in a lot of trouble if you are not following those guidelines for your school, your state, and the NCAA. And it's a lot of information. That's why we pushed so hard, my team, us together and separately, we push each one of our expertise, because this education is important. Because like I said, this is such a new topic for students, staff, athletes, parents, coaches, etc. Tonita talked about you being your brand, whether that's you, like she said, you just getting on social media and posting consistently, whether that's you actually establishing what nonprofit you might start, what is your passion, what type of community service you want to get into. She said to decide what brands you can bring value to, what you want to represent. Because just because someone offers you something doesn't mean that you should take it. Not all money is good money. And not every brand aligns with your core values, as she stated. And she also stated something important: be yourself. Because consumers can sniff out when you're fake. They could tell you don't really use that skincare brand. Or they can tell you don't eat that cereal brand. Or that you are claiming you are endorsing one athletic product, but then when we see you out regularly, you have on something completely different. And lastly, like Porsche said, develop a strategy for your new financial responsibility. So all the things she talked about, whether you are not knowledgeable of it or whether you need to gain that knowledge by contacting someone like Porsche, you need to have that strategy in place so that you can be prepared to handle all the things, like she said, because you might just, you more than likely are the first generation of your family to have this income. So you want to be able to handle it in a way that coincides with you handling everything else in your life, your personal life, being a student, being an athlete. All of these things take up a lot of your time. Classes, practices, games, etc. So you want to make sure that you have someone in your corner or that can help you contain all of these endorsements, contracts, and especially this new money. And lastly, build a team that includes someone that can protect your career and interests. So that would be someone like myself, Tonita, or Porsche, and see that each of us has our own expertise. We have our own knowledge. We have been doing this a while. We're able to guide you. We're able to understand things that you might not understand. And sometimes, even if you talk to us separately and you ask a question, we're able to refer you to the person that you need to talk to, even if you don't have the answer. This makes me look so crazy when I'm trying to go to the next slide and don't move. So, of course, lastly, questions. So whether you have a question for me, Sunnita, or Porsche, or just any concerns or any comments, please feel free to ask them. I'm not sure if well, hold on, let me see if there's anything in the chat. I don't see anything, and I don't know if maybe Jamila, if anyone had any questions that you knew of prior to, or any, you remember from any other sessions that we could talk about, or if you particularly think there's something that we didn't touch on, or that you maybe become knowledgeable.
There's no questions in the queue. But y'all pretty much covered everything. So how could people get in contact with you all if they have additional questions or want more information, especially for the people who will be watching the replay? Oh, okay, right there.
You said that. Here's all our contact information. I'm quite sure you can call us, email us. We are all on social media. I'll let everyone go through and give out their social media information. Mine is Creative EsquiHER on Instagram and on Facebook. On LinkedIn, it's my name, Sunnita Blount. So you have the spelling right there. And of course, if you want to email me and ask me a question, I'm happy to return the email. If you call me, of course, my assistant will answer and she'll let me know how you reached. Make sure when you email me or if you call, say, hey, I saw your presentation on the Youth Athlete Summit and I wanted to ask a follow-up question, or I have a deal, or I have someone I know that might can utilize your services. So just make sure you mention Youth Athlete Summit so I'll know exactly where you got the information, and it also helps me know like people are actually listening. So yeah, that's all of my social media information. Now I'll let Tonita and Porsche give out theirs.
My social media is my name. It's IAMTONITAB. I am Tonita B. Of course, that's my phone number. My email is on there, but my website is incorrect. It's savvygirlconsulting.org, not .com. You can book a consultation on savvygirlconsulting.org. In addition to that, you can send me an email or you can send me a text message. That is my business line. Again, my social media is IAMTONITAB, and that is for Twitter, for X. And that'll send you links to my website, to my Savvy Girl Consulting page, to Consulting Savvy, my X. It'll also send you over to my TikTok, my Pinterest, and my LinkedIn.
And my social media is Porsche, Porsche, love, LOVE __. If you Google me, make sure you put the S in the middle. There is a musician in California with the same name as me. So make sure you put the S in the middle so that you can find me. Website is there as well as email, and that is my direct phone number. So if you call or text that number, you are going to reach directly to me.
Okay. And also, in our upcoming posts, they'll also be tagged. So if you want to connect with them on Instagram, they'll be tagged. Also in our newsletter, we'll have this information for next week. I want to thank you ladies for sharing your knowledge and expertise, and I also would like to extend condolences to Tonita and her family. And I think that's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you for
Yes,
that.
you're welcome. Yes. And we're wrapping up today. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining wherever you are. So have a good day, a good evening. And that's it.
Thank you so much for having us. We are really, really appreciative. And we would love if you would call us back, contact us back, or if you have any
Yes,
other things you
definitely.
need us to help
Because
us.
y'all are like the Avengers. So yes, I will be calling.
Yeah, and you keep in contact with us and let us know if we can help you with anything.
Anything. We are a one-stop
Anything.
shop. A one-stop
Yes.
shop.
Yes. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
You too.
Thank you. Happy New Year, and everyone have a great rest of their week.